technology across the Middle East and North Africa. According to Euromoney and AT Kearney, estimates the food retail market in the GCC will reach $106 billion in 2017. To dive deeper into this, we will have a panel discussion dissecting entrepreneurship in food tech, moderated by Nida Al-Dihani, Managing Director of Brilliant Labs, who will need a few minutes to join us. Sure. If I may request the speakers to join us until Diya will be here. Mr. Rashid Sultan, founder and managing partner of Savour Ventures. Mr. Khalil Shadid, founder and CEO of Reserve Out. Mr. Zaid Husban, founder and CEO of POS Rocket. Ahmed Salama, co-founder and CEO of Bilbait. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. We're sorry to keep you all waiting. This will just take a few minutes. In the meantime, would you guys like to introduce yourselves and let us know more about you guys, about your journey?
Start with.
Yeah, we can start from the top.
We pick this up or?
Yeah, I think it's working fine.
Okay.
Just.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. My name is Ahmed Salama. I'm one of the founders and the CEO of Bilbait.com. Bilbait.com is an online catering marketplace. It's relatively kind of a new concept globally, but we are now operating in Kuwait and in the UAE. My background is previous to Bilbait. I was in financial services, really financial markets. Spent a few years at Commercial Bank of Kuwait, and then went off and completed an MBA in London. From towards the end of the MBA, came up with the idea for Bilbait and began execution. And now we are approximately almost 3 years old.
Hello everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah, it's working. My name is Zaid Husban, founder and CEO of POS Rocket. I'm originally from Jordan. POS Rocket is a cloud point of sale solution, and I previously co-founded a company called iFood.jo, which is a food online ordering platform, which was then acquired by Delivery Hero.
Hello everyone, Khalil Shadid, founder and CEO of ReserveOut.com. ReserveOut is an online restaurant reservation platform based across the Middle East, or most countries in the Middle East. We provide restaurants with a technology solution to manage end-to-end operations of the restaurant, from reservation management, table management, a full customer database, and marketing tools. And we provide users or diners the ability to browse, see the menus, pictures, pick restaurants where they want to dine, and make a restaurant reservation that is confirmed in real time. We're currently available in the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, Amman, and Lebanon. And we have plans to cover the rest of the Middle East within the next year. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rashid Sultan. I'm the founder and managing partner of an accelerator here in Kuwait that focuses on the food vertical. It's called Savour Ventures. We invest in startups in everything from agriculture to food technology. So had these guys just started up, I would be a potential investor for them.
Start another business if you want.
Absolutely, whenever you want. And so we look for startups that have entrepreneurs that are entrepreneurial in nature, have a track record, and we invest in the entrepreneurs. We don't necessarily invest in the idea. And that's why we're here, I guess.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Obviously, I'm not Nida. Nida had to leave for he urgently had to leave, so I'm going to be jumping in and moderating for him. This is pretty unorthodox, never happened before, but so please bear with me.
That's fine.
Thanks for the introductions. Think you guys did it all very well yourselves. I want to start off with the current state of the food tech ecosystem, of what's happening across the region. If we can start talking about like the recent investments that have been taking place, how much is growing. I don't know if you've recently got a hand on the magazines that we've been distributing. We've done a full research on the current ecosystem. There's over 101 startups gone in, so much investments. If we can start with Savour, if possible, on what, how you see this. It's also very interesting if it comes from you, because you're the first focused food accelerator in the region as well.
We still see growth in food tech, and when we look at food tech, it could be anything from delivery, and enabling reservations, enabling catering, to enabling restaurant efficiency. So one of the startups that competed in the Ideathon this morning is one of our first cohort. Tab? Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. And another investment we made, Pantry Bee, was competing in the startup competition. So I think there's still growth. I think even in Kuwait, where we've had 2 significant exits, there's still an opportunity for more. The market's in its infancy. It's a significant market space. There's still value to be created, and we're hopeful. We're very hopeful.
Now, looking at Kuwait itself, if I just focus on Kuwait for a second, like you said, like the 2 main acquisitions that took place in Kuwait were in the food sector.
Yes.
And there's been a lot of talk around the scene on Kuwait should probably just focus on food. You've always been known for food, you're known for restaurants. How about like more? And with Savour, people are like, oh, that is what's happening. Like Dubai wants to be the fintech hub. Does Kuwait want to be the food tech hub? Is that a trend that you're seeing?
Yes and no. So, we've got two entrepreneurs on my left that are not based in Kuwait. They've got fantastic business models. I think Kuwait's been organic in terms of creating restaurants and F&B concepts, and we've been very good at that. I think we've been entrepreneurial in nature in that sense. In terms of food tech, yes, we've had 2 significant exits, but that will change as we go forward. But I don't think Kuwait, if it's going to be the food capital of the GCC, but I wouldn't say that. Maybe it could be the food tech hub, but is yet to be seen.
Right. What technologies do either one of you guys, or if like all of you guys can let me know, what technology is affecting the industry today?
What technologies?
What technologies? Like top 3 trends, let's say.
I think there's many things that's affecting the food tech industry today. You're seeing a lot more restaurants open in almost every city across the Middle East, and the trend is changing. People are dining out more. People are ordering in more, and unfortunately, to some of us who love home-cooked meals, that is going down in many cases. But it's good for business. I'm not necessarily complaining. But you're seeing actually a lot of interesting stuff. I mean, a few weeks ago, I heard that in the UAE, Deliveroo just launched their first shared kitchen. And I thought that was very interesting because they basically built a kitchen that restaurants in a specific neighborhood, they don't have access to deliver in that neighborhood. They will allow them to prepare, to send their chefs there, make the meals, and Deliveroo will send them. I thought that was very innovative because if I live in Dubai, and if you have a restaurant in downtown, you're limited to where you can deliver if you're going to deliver within that 30 to 40 minute radius. So someone living in Marina or JBR wouldn't have access to delivery from that restaurant. So this is something that I think is very interesting, very new, and I know that a lot of restaurants are jumping on it. Another trend that we're seeing is, at least that we're seeing within Reserve Out, is there are more and more restaurants that have realized how important customer data is. 3-4 years ago when we started, and we went up to a restaurant and asked them, you know, do you have a customer database? I said, yes, I have 50,000 likes on Facebook. And it took us a long time to explain to them that that's not a customer database. You need to collect real data. You need to understand how they interact with you. You need to understand what they order, what their favorite items are, what their allergies are, in order for you to be able to market better to them, in order to be able to serve them better. And that's how you create customer loyalty. And we're seeing a lot of restaurants, suddenly, I would say in the past maybe less than 18 months, come to us, and restaurants who've been using our technology, and tell us, wait, so I have 3 years worth of data, how can I leverage it? And we are ecstatic when we get that question because we've been trying to explain it to them for the past 3 years. So this is something that we've been seeing recently and we love it. And one other thing is the whole marriage between customer data and social media and customer feedback. So how are restaurants or how are, you know, whether it's in dining or whether it's delivery or whether it's catering, how do you marry that customer data with what they're saying on social media as well in getting their feedback so that you can create a full cycle of customer satisfaction?
The way actually we look at it, restaurants recently, they are more and more looking into adopting technology into their operations. Because technology today is really solving a huge operational issues inside the restaurant. So today, let's say the solution we're getting, if you have your data available for you 24/7 as a business owner on the cloud, and you have the flexibility to control your data, you can check which items are selling today, the most selling items, you can check which items are selling the least, and you can actually order the driver from an iPad that is out there, that is locked for you out there. So these technologies really help the restaurants trying to optimize their operations. And we think that with the online ordering and the food online ordering, it's really changing the trend of how people are ordering food. Because if you compare offline orders to online orders, they have a higher check value. So restaurants now, they understood this value of online ordering and they're paying much more attention to it, and they're spending even much more money into advertising online and getting themselves recognized online on multiple food ordering platforms. So it has really changed. I want to give one example. When we first launched iFood in 2012 in Amman, we had around 10 orders per day. So people were not really familiar with the technology back then. So we had to do a lot of marketing campaigns, a lot of awareness campaigns. And 3 years later, we opened in another city called Irbid. And from day one, we got 100 orders per day. So you could see, like, during those 3 years, even people got really, they adopted the technology much more faster. And they really accepted the idea of ordering and trusting the technology of your order that goes through the restaurant and it fulfills the whole cycle. So technology really is playing a huge aspect in the restaurant industry and the food industry in the region.
For me personally, I might not be so familiar with the operational side or the, you know, in the B2B side, but from the B2B, B2C perspective, I think the major change is obvious. It's the tectonic shift in how people consume food from restaurants, and that's been, you know, kind of put on hypergrowth and enabled by these food delivery platforms. And I think the real change as a result is how people entering this space or entering food retail have changed the way they look at their business models. So, you know, a few years ago, maybe delivery constituted a small portion of a restaurant's revenue. Decisions based on where to locate, where to set up, how to advertise, all get affected by how this revenue distribution changes. And I think this is the major change. Today, a lot of the vendors on our platform share with me their breakdown, and some have staggeringly high delivery numbers. So some are like 70 and 80% of their total sales are from delivery. So this really changes a lot of things for in this space. And with it, services, operations, business decisions all change along with it. Things like where to set up, what type of locations you need, what type of people you need to hire, what systems you need in place. Some are already there, some are yet to be, adopted. So this is where I think the major change, like I said, was with how people order food or how they consume it. And then there's a whole set of solutions and industries that can, be created around that. But yeah.
All right. Taking a look at the food tech ecosystem today, where do you guys see there is a gap in the ecosystem? Where do we need to progress further, whether in terms of like restaurants, or does it come from like consumers as well, from like a 360-degree view?
Name a couple of things maybe that I feel that the region and the ecosystem need. From one perspective, Dubai, for example, probably has the most number of high-end restaurants or international restaurants in the world. In the region, and yet till this day you don't have a single Michelin star restaurant, right? And Michelin star restaurants, right? You have Michelin star chefs who've opened restaurants in Dubai, but they are not Michelin star restaurants. And I'm not saying that Dubai needs one, but people globally who travel for food usually travel to destinations where there's a concentration of Michelin star restaurants. You see that in Copenhagen, you see that in San Sebastian in Spain, in Tokyo, and different places. So for just looking from a restaurant perspective for us, when we look at reservations and dining out and who are the people who are coming to any city in the Middle East, we see a gap there and we get a lot of questions within that sense. The other one, maybe the other thing that the ecosystem is missing, at least from a food tech perspective, I think we need more companies in food tech. I think we need more investments in food tech. I think we need larger ticket sizes in food tech. We haven't really seen that many large investments. We've seen some great acquisitions and they've been amazing. They've shed a lot of light on the region, but we haven't seen, a company, putting Kareem aside because they're not in food tech, we haven't seen a company raise $100 million, expand out of the region and go buy companies or launch in Asia or India or even the West. And I think we need stories like that, and we need people that will facilitate that.
And I think you're right, because I was actually looking at some of these numbers and they caught my attention when we were working on these. In the food delivery sector, like just the food delivery section, there's 101 food delivery startups on their own. Only $6.4 million been invested in that in the past 3 years. 6 mergers and acquisitions though. But $6.4 million on 101 food delivery startups it's a bit shy. Especially then when I look at the restaurant tech, where there's only 15 restaurant tech startups, and a total of $9.8 million invested there in the past 4 years. So the numbers, why do you think this is the case though? Or do you think like one sector in food tech is more, do you see more progress or more chance of opportunity for growth in one of the sectors than others? Like if we're looking at them, you've got the food delivery, restaurant tech, and chef services. Does one have more potential than the other? Do you think it's because the food delivery sector is saturated, a lot of imitation, a lot of clones, or what is it that's lagging in that sector itself?
I think because of the number of transactions that happened in the delivery sector, the companies that bought other companies have a lot of money, so they don't raise funding further for that. But also, for example, you look at Talabat, even pre-acquisition, when was the last time you heard about Talabat raising funding? It was all funded internally. So those don't get published in these numbers because you don't have VCs or angel investors coming in. So I think some of these numbers aren't necessarily accurate because money was pumped, but it wasn't really announced.
So I kind of agree. It was early days in the sector, and I don't think...
Sorry, can you just get closer to the microphone?
Sorry. So I kind of agree. It was early days in the sector, so you're not getting a good viewpoint on the funding requirements. That said, I feel like the restaurants and the restaurant owners in the region are not adopting the technology in the way they are in the US and Europe and Asia. I think there's a reluctancy to adopt new technologies. unless you get enough of an audience. So, if you look at Talabat, for years, there was a few restaurants on it, and then it kind of picked up. In Kuwait, nobody reserves a table to go to a restaurant, right? I mean, one of the reasons that he's not here, possibly. It's just that the game is slightly different. And so we'll catch up. We'll definitely catch up, and we'll see more. And there aren't any VCs that, look at this space, not in terms of Foodtech, but this early stage. Now we see that coming about. So hopefully all of that will change.
Sounds very positive.
Always have to be.
Always positive.
Yeah.
Even the worst.
What are the challenges that the local, or I don't just mean local, if any of the local startups, yes, want to scale across the region, do they face challenges with the different cultures, the different menus, the different dialects? Have any of you faced any of these kind of challenges?
I can write a book about that.
One of the main challenges actually was the adoption of online payments, because if you have an online platform and when you want people to start using your service, and even in UAE it's 70% cash, 30% credit card payments. So still people really do not rely on credit card payments, which makes it a lot easier for the startup or the company. If you want to think about cash collection, for example, this was a nightmare in iFood. At the end of the month, I would have to go to 500, 600 restaurants and start collecting my cash. So if online payments and people were adopted more to paying online, this would have made things much easier for the startup itself. So this is also a challenge that we still look at, and in terms of payment options.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
We were talking about challenges in the ecosystem. Challenges in startup scaling across the region.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we obviously also are living with these challenges. There are many reasons. I think because they're just separate countries. We don't have borderless trade. You have to set up, you have to go through the regulatory process and legal processes of setting up each country. And although we're very similar in terms of language, religion, and things like that, tastes, preferences, cultures can be very different. For instance, with Bilbait, when we started in the UAE, we found that what people wanted, who ordered, and what they ordered was completely different. So we went into that market with a lot of assumptions, assuming what worked in Kuwait would work there, but it did not at all. So we had to really understand what the market wanted, and it's a completely different set of caterers and restaurants, different types of menu items they'd order, different types of setups. The customers were very different. For example, we have a lot of regular corporate and business customers in the UAE. They order things like finger foods and canapes and platters. In Kuwait, we have a lot of business, it's a lot of B2C, and they order very, very different things. I just think, although we're one region, borders are very high barriers to expand. Plus, obviously, habits and preferences are very different. I mean, maybe not for commodity products, maybe not for electronics and maybe food delivery, which is kind of straightforward, but for anything that's a bit niche or a bit has a bit more customization to it, in terms of tastes and preferences, it's a challenge.
Are we getting a chapter out of your book, or?
Sure, if you insist. Look, I think we are at a disadvantage from the way our region is set up. I mean, you hear a lot of people comparing, the region, the Middle East is 350 million people, the US is 350 million people, so, why don't we have the same scale? The difference is in the US, you set up in Delaware, you can operate in 52 states. Here, I set up in Amman, I can operate nowhere except in Amman. Unless I have to fly to Dubai, set up an office, which takes 2 to 3 months at best, hire a team, and then I have to do the same thing in Saudi, and I have to do the same in Qatar, and Kuwait, and Egypt, and Lebanon, and everywhere we are. And when you when you want to expand, it should be made simple. A lot of our governments all talk about innovation. They talk about that, they want to enable and empower entrepreneurs. Yet the biggest roadblocks we have when scaling are set up by these governments, and sometimes it actually makes us turn away and look somewhere else where it might be easier for us to set up.
Your progress.
Yeah.
And what kind of advice would you give to startups in your accelerator regarding all these challenges? Or how do you help them tackle these kind of challenges?
Like everything in life, I don't know if you can hear me. Like everything in life, you've got to choose your battles, right? So for us in Kuwait, I think if you're able to codify and make the business model work here, instead of going into the UAE, maybe it's worth your time to go into Saudi, right? Larger market. If you're able to kind of cross those cultural barriers, then you've got something. Other than that, there's nothing you can do, right? It's about hunkering down and starting again, pretty much, which is why it becomes difficult. Unless you're a platform that is much simpler to cross-border with. So tech-only platforms.
Like
but
delivery.
to some degree, right? Food delivery not so much, because you have to actually have the delivery platform also. But it's not easy. It's not easy at all. It's even, it's hard for these guys to come to Kuwait. And, we're a small market, we're relatively open. But the regulatory environment doesn't assist, especially when you have foreign companies coming in.
Okay. Well, you guys discussed I think a couple of you mentioned data today. The importance of shared data. Data is key. How do you see that being used in the future as well? Like with the introduction of machine learning and AI, or I don't know what else coming in, how do you see data playing a role in the food tech ecosystem?
I would say it would lower your costs. So data would enable you not to waste money on traditional marketing, traditional sales channels. With the right data, it enables you to know exactly who your customer is, what their profile is, and how to reach them. So it should enable a reduction in costs.
So more of like personalized, tailored marketing.
It's bigger than that.
Okay.
But yes.
I would agree, but I would also add to it that I'll give you a specific example of something we haven't done yet, but we're looking to do, which is we know what each person orders at a restaurant, or not each person, but we integrate with various point of sale systems. Hopefully soon with Zaid's company as well. So we know, we own the whole life cycle. When the person books, when they're seated, what they order, how much they spend. We look at all of that. And what we want to do is when we have enough data in there and you're able to actually apply some machine learning, apply some predictions, we can actually tell the restaurants how many steaks they should order, how much salmon they should fly in. If they bring the burrata fresh every 2 days, how much they should bring on a Monday versus a Wednesday, because the weekend they would consume more. So to your point, the efficiency that can add in making sure that you're getting the right material at the right time is very, very interesting. And also the customization and the personalization when you serve these customers, knowing their preferences, it also goes a long way as well.
Similar to Tab's concept, wasn't it?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And even with Tab, if you integrate into the point of sale system, then everything's connected. And that's what I mean by lowering your costs across the full supply chain.
This is actually what we're focusing on right now, because we're targeting small to medium businesses, be it restaurants, retail shops, etc. So once we have this data, we get this data and we try to act as their assistant. So we have the data and we start suggesting things for them to do, for the business owner. So based on previous data, based on AI, so we tell them, okay, you have this item that is selling the least and this item that's selling the most. So if you combine these items together and make an offer, you will increase your sales by X number. So based on previous data that you collect, you start suggesting things for the business owner to do that will help them really increase their sales and increase their growth. So yes, data is very, very, very important at this stage to take the right decisions, as Rashid said.
Another thing that we're doing now, we're building a chat system between the hostesses or the managers or whoever is running the restaurant and anyone who's trying to make a booking. And the interesting thing there is we're using a combination of artificial intelligence as well as real people. Because when you call a restaurant and you have a question, usually the person answering the phone can only answer one call at a time. But they can answer probably 10 chat requests that are coming in, especially if most of them somebody's asking for directions. This will be handled by the AI. If somebody's asking for the menu, somebody asking for, do you supply a birthday cake or can we bring them? But if it's something more specific, then the person takes over and actually answers that question. So this is another example of data or AI and how it can be used within the food tech space.
Great. I think we have some time for some Q&As. Are there any questions from the audience?
Hello. Hello. My name is Amber Nashashibi. I'd like, I heard from you all. I can see one element that is of common interest to everybody, not only in this session, but in every session we do everywhere in the Arab world. We had today panel in the morning, all the government was here that is representing the youth and the entrepreneur and all this. And they were all saying we need to change, we need to do this, we need to do that. And I hear you guys, you want less border, you want less regulation, you want less problems created so that you can really operate in any Arab country without having to duplicate all your expenses, setting up companies, setting up offices, and all this. Well, I would say we raise the voice here, everybody participating, and we really make it like a arida. We put it on the website and we sign it by all entrepreneurs and the young entrepreneurs to be, so that the government listen to us at the end of the day and try to help in minimizing these barriers among the Arab countries. Honestly speaking, it's sometimes very tough for us to fly some of those entrepreneurs to pitch in one of these startups in some of these countries. So it's really sad. We see this happening day after day, while as we say that the global market is there for a grab and other people are coming and competing in our territory. So I would applaud every one of you who is trying to make it with all these challenges. And I would really encourage you all to keep on fighting until those walls are coming down, and hopefully they will come down, so don't despair.
There's a question in the back. Are you familiar with Madame Amber? She's the chairwoman at ArabNet. That's why she's talking about the struggles of flying entrepreneurs from one country to the other. We actually had some members of our team who couldn't even make it to Kuwait today.
Yes, hello. I'm a business consultant and I have clients doing startups in the region. And one of the major concerns is when they want to build something, a platform that is to scale up either to MENA region or global, they don't know where to set up the head office. Like you mentioned before that you have to open an office everywhere. So I've been asked whether they should set up in Cayman Islands or BVI or somewhere else and then do licensing to the Middle East, to every office in the Middle East. What's your suggestion for that?
Can you please repeat that question, because we didn't really get it here?
When you're doing a startup that is not just for one country, let's say it's not just for Kuwait. I have a client from Lebanon, it's going to launch an app in Kuwait next month. But they want to scale up to the GCC and then Middle East and then globally, okay? They don't want to have like the mother company, the head office, just in Kuwait, because the law being an offshore, let's say in this case, being from Lebanon, would tie them up to certain formalities, certain taxation. Well, there is no tax here, but in terms of partnership, they would have to have a local partner with 51% of shares. If they're going to scale up globally, then that's their partner for everywhere else. So what is your suggestion for them? Like, should they do an offshore and then do licensing for the offices that they open in every country, or how do you do it?
What's the product though? Is it like?
For in this case, it's an on-demand chef application marketplace.
I think it depends just on it depends more on the product and where you need to be. I mean, I'll share with you. We have legal entities in 5 countries, and they're all owned by a BVI entity. So that's the holding company. And the BVI entity is not really for our operation. It's really more to bring investors in and out. That's actually probably the primary reason for it. But each office is in a city that we operate in is registered, and we have to go through the standard proceedings. Now, depending on how you want to set up, where you want to keep your IP, what you want to do. For example, all our technology is built out of Amman in Jordan. So our IP is actually registered in Jordan, and then we do an internal license agreement between the other offices. So I think it just depends on the product and how you want to set it up, but that's how we chose to do it.
I think if he wants to operate in every single country, you must have a local entity in every single country. So this is the main disadvantage, that if you really want to operate, you can't have an offshore company and then operate in this country, because you can't open a bank account. You can't sign employment agreements with the employees. So you must have a local entity in every single country.
Unless you can accept credit cards for everything, then it doesn't matter.
Which is also a big challenge.
I think his biggest concern is having a local partner in Kuwait.
Yeah.
I think that's his biggest.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This was great. Thank you all for joining us.